Hey, my name is Shabir Sultan and welcome to Project Zero. In this episode, I meet with 3 music producers, all of whom are at the peak of their game in respective lanes. First up, we have Akim Jahat, a rapper and producer who is known for his tasteful unification of clever wordplay and incorporation of Asian culture in his music with a notable following in both Singapore and Malaysia. Next up, we have Fox, a freeform producer and genre juggler. Fox puts out fluctuating works that blur the boundary between the organic and synthetic. His early string of EPs revealed his experimental ventures into the territories of boom bap, jazz, chill hop, trip hop, and hip hop. Last but not least, we've got Jason Galchen. After founding Homeground Studios in 2016, Jason has carved his place in Singapore's music industry by producing some of Singapore's biggest acts such as Gentle Bones, Jasmine Soko, and Benjamin King. Join us as we explore the pivotal role of the music producer in the industry and how that can be a key ingredient to shape the Singapore sound. This is Project Zero. Thank you and welcome to the show, all 3 of you. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for having us.
So in this show, we want to start off with the very simple question, straight to the point, to the jugular. What is the Singapore sound? Jason, let's start with you.
That's what.
Since you're very eager.
Wow. Just because I was giving you eye contact.
Yeah. No, you said something before we rolled.
Okay. I think I do hold like such a controversial thing where like I feel like there is no Singapore sound yet, or there is no Singapore sound right now. I feel like we are because we're so multicultural, right? And right now, I feel when I work with a lot of youths, right, it's really balanced between the Western and the Koreans. It's always either you listen to a lot of American pop or you listen to a lot of K-pop. And with anything that is more like, let's say, for example, alternative, right, is more niche and has their own individual circles and their own individual cliques that are very segregated. I think that what I've been trying to figure out foremost has always been like, how do we combine the first major two, like how you get someone who listens to K-pop to listen to American pop? Because if you can't even get these 2 major factions to align, there's no way you're gonna get all the little niches at the bottom, right? Like if you listen to, let's say, like hip hop, or if you listen to something a bit more alternative, how are you gonna like come together, right? Because even right now on this table, right, the 3 of us as producers all produce different music, and we all listen to different things also. And like, but we can be friends, but doesn't mean we're all a fan or create the same genre of music or the same sound. But also at the same time, I feel like there is recently, especially with our generation, it's starting to develop like, you can sort of tell like something comes out of Singapore. I don't know what it is. I don't know how to put to it. But this is from like my contacts in LA, who has been saying like, this sounds like you, or this sounds like something done in Singapore. You know, we know like X, Y, and Z. Like that's Josh Wei. So whenever Josh and I produce something, they will know that it's us. It's just very interesting. But I don't know what's the sound for it. Like, you know, the word for it, sorry. Like, I would know when Chris works on a track. Like, it's always a fun thing to go to New Music Friday and then be like playing it on the background. And then be like, yeah, this is dope. Oh, Chris did this. You know? Oh, then I heard Tandoori through that way. And then I was like, oh, that's Akim's voice. You know, like you sort of like get something there. But what it is yet, I don't think we're there. But that's why we're all here to discuss. And I would like to pick the brains of the 3 of you. All right, what do you think? Because my realm is very pop-based. Yeah.
That's cool. Thanks for sharing. And we've got all kinds of views on the show. And even those who have not come on the show yet, I've got like Digley saying, of course there's a Singapore sound. He's like, what the f*** are you talking about, man? And then there was another person, a good friend of mine, Wang Chen Wei, who's a classical music composer in the Western and Chinese classical music scene. And he was saying that if we need to sit down and talk about it, then it's probably not there. So we have got varying views on this. I've got my own views too, which I'll share. But I'd like to hear from 3 of you. And Jason, you started off with a point of view that which is a true reflection of what's happening on the ground. Shazza and Gene Seizure on the show. And until I asked the question, they never pondered that question before. But of course, they left the show thinking about it. And I think that's a good start. Because I believe it's not just about a sound, it's also about identity, it's about heritage, it's about roots. It's about personality, and the nationalities at the backdrop of all these things. And when we're trying to talk about these things, maybe it's not just an aesthetic thing, but it's also a spiritual thing. It's also an emotional thing, how you connect with it. And that's why I want to talk to Akim Jahat on this subject too. What is the Singapore sound for you? And of course, you are free to also disagree that there's no Singapore sound, but I want to hear from you because Akim is an interesting, artist for us in Singapore. I think we're very fortunate to have an artist like him because he makes a track like Woodlands work without resorting to parody or humor. He can make it sound gangster and make it work, you know what I'm saying? And normally when we reach into stuff that's got to do with Singapore, we are always leaning more towards fun and Singlish, what becomes popular, what becomes Singaporean is like some say lay, some say law, that kind of thing. Of course, no hate to that. That is done for a particular audience and for a particular reason. But there are very few people who can make what is Singapore and a particular place in Singapore actually sound serious. Like, I want to take that seriously. Don't with Woodlands, that kind of thing. So Akim, tell us about that.
Yeah, for me, I guess the closest thing to Singapore sound now is the language. Even I rap in 3 styles. Like we have the English one, then we have the pure Malay Akim Jahat, and we have the bilingual Akim Jahat. So even in my Malay version of my music, right, like it's, if you compare it to like the Malaysians as well, like we use different slangs and whatnot. So I think for now the closest thing, maybe not sonically, but I think people are starting to identify our melodies and whatnot already. But the closest thing we have is the language, the slang, the lingo. And then when we rap in English, like most of us don't even know our phonics, so you can actually hear that like these guys must be from the one beside Johor. They can identify us.
Right. And and they identify, when you say they, you mean Malaysians or people?
Just non-Singaporean non-Singaporean music, peers
right.
that I have.
So you would say that there is a Singapore sound?
Definitely, there is, because to me, it does boil down to the Singapore story as well. So the reason why I came out with Woodlands is because I was sick and tired of singing New York, Alicia Keys and Jay-Z. I'm sick and tired of watching people going New York and haven't been there. My boys like singing it. I wear a New York hat right now. Like it does not make sense. Why am I wearing? You know what I mean? So I got frustrated, a bit revengeful with the fact that like, why aren't we singing about our own neighborhood? Because if we're gonna sing about things we know, we're gonna sing it well. And then I think from there it accidentally become a Singapore sound because the guys from Woodlands are gonna be prideful and like, you know what, Singapore has their own anthem, their own music and whatnot. So I think the closest thing lyrically, through storytelling, we have lah. And I feel like Phua Chu Kang Sa's rap is still our Singapore sound for now. We need to beat because everybody knows that song.
Yeah. And what's popular, as I mentioned, are things which are laden with humor mostly. And of course, we got artists like Akim coming on board and changing the narrative. It could be this too, And of course, I enjoy that because after a point, we also want to push the envelope as artists and not just pander to what the audience want.
Yes.
I feel like artists need to lead the way, but we are in a time where artists are forced to conform due to, you guys know all the reasons, the playlistings and things like that. So some of us are like lone voices in that particular area where we're trying to create a certain form of stewardship and trying to push it. Sometimes it's not because we want to do something noble. It's just the way we operate. It's just us. We have to do it to kind of stay alive as artists, right? It's our creative sustenance. And then there is like an extreme example, which is Fox, who just doing this shit. He just wants to do what he wants to do, and that's his way of expression. And for me, I would say, even before you start, that is also the Singapore sound. And there is a very spiritual quality about it. I don't know whether you think a lot about it, just comes organically, or you put a lot of thought into it. But tell us your process, and do you actually see that as a Singapore sound yourself?
So I personally feel that Singapore is young, which also means that from the moment that music became a point of entertainment, whether bands played for British soldiers all the way up to like there's actually money in this industry. I think that there is a Singapore sound, but I don't see it as an audio thing. I see it as a mentality. And why I say that is because, and I think even prior to this conversation, it just happened when we were talking, but different people have different views. Some of the views we heard that said got Singapore sound is like, hey, this guy has been in it for a long time. So I find it that every era has had its own set of challenges and problems, and every era's response to what they chose to do is the music of Singapore. To suggest is there a sound is terribly difficult because just like the music, our country also has been trying to grow, trying to compete, trying to one up. And unless we are living in a society where people wake up not to thanking the universe for having a shelter alone, I am not surprised that our very answers could be as similar as the very answers that non-musicians in Singapore who also love music might give. So I am still more about the mentality towards like the approach and understanding that just like other developed countries that have lasted more than 100 years, it can be possible that it won't be in our lifetime to suggest what that is, but we are just at a better opportunity and accessibility and information to at least suggest a variety of things, and hopefully in that future, people have options to pick or best mix it all up.
Yeah. I love that. I loved the part where you said mix it all up, and I think that's what we are anyway, right? We're all so mixed as a society, and we are a multicultural, multiracial society, and that reflects in a lot of things that we do, but does it really reflect in the music all the time? That's the question. Jason, let's go with you. Do you think it reflects in the music that we produce? Because Jason is in the forefront of the scene. You've pushed like so many of our artists to go international with your production, which shows the power of the producer. Is it, when you look at your peers, do we have a collective consciousness when it comes to, because I'm in Singapore and I've got all these options. If I'm from China or India, then getting a particular instrument might be very challenging because they are thousands and thousands of miles away. Like if an Indian artist in Chennai wants to record a good song,
It's not gonna.
it's not going to happen unless he gets online, right? But they can't meet and collaborate, breathe the same oxygen, get into the studio. It's difficult. And that's always, it changes things. But you and I can get a good song. Like we just make a call and next day we have it in our studio. But do we use that resource? I see it as a resource that we have as often.
Well, the one thing I love about Singapore and why I'm still here instead of like, a lot of people ask me why don't I go Korea or LA, is because in Singapore, the music I feel when I produce here, everybody I meet, it's free. It's very free. Like you said, we can call somebody for Guzan. When we were doing Chingay, we called multiple people. I had a guy come in for Ethnic. I was learning how to play the tabla from him. There was the other guy. There was an Indian guy playing a dizi, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Like
that's what we are. That's crazy. Yeah.
Like that was like the drummer, the ethnic drummer for Tamil, like drums, right? Is Chinese. But he's Chinese because like he's half. He looks more Chinese, but his dad's Indian, his mom Chinese. So like all these things like make Singapore very free. And like if you ask me like whether or not like we use it, I think we do. Right, we do it a lot. Most artists I work with, like with Gentle Bones last time, even with Lullaboy also, right? Like I try to sneak in a little bit of something extra. And I think what makes our production stand out, like especially in Southeast Asia, because if you go overseas, right, to this region, right, they're all looking at us, maybe like, I don't speak for Malaysia, I know that a bit iffy, but if you go to like Indonesia or Philippines, right, like they will always say that Singapore's production is a league above theirs for some reason, right? And I think the only reason why they feel that way is because like we're not confined mentally to like, oh, this is our sound, right? Which is why I also said like there's no Singapore sound yet. Because like we can do anything. If like right now today, and I work with Akim, and I want to put a guzheng in his track, the only reason why it cannot happen is if Akim says no. Yeah. Yeah, which is crazy.
Yeah, but the possibilities are endless,
Yeah,
right?
endless.
Because we
You can do
reach out,
anything. Yeah, you can do anything you want here. Like even if the case of like if Chris wants to take something from like I don't know, like what's a crazy instrument? Like the 弟子 I mentioned. I can just call the guy for you. Right? I can get you a whole Chinese orchestra. Right? Like and it's 15 minutes drive away.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
So
And that's the power that we have. And as you said, we do use it. I probably the question is it enough? Is the consciousness enough? That's what I'm going for, at this point. Akim, what do you think about that? Do you think we are conscious enough that all these resources are available for us? You see, I understand the practical limitations because I also come from a commercial industry, and mine is the most confusing one because there's India with all the film tracks happening, and I got indie happening, and my India's got Tamil, my India's got Urdu, my India's got a bit of English, and yeah, it's just bloody confusing. But that's the way it is, right? Because you're born in this part of the world, you figure out your way, and what gets even more confusing is that I started off with like Vasantham Star. Like when I come from Hougang, and I was in a gang when I was young. And then when you join Vasantham Star reality show, then they're like, smile, gangsters don't smile. And smile, it's like, I gotta keep smiling, they make me wear pink and all that kind of stuff. Like, what am I doing here, man? In the studio before that, we were like, Executioners, Linkin Park, doing cover of that song. And I'm like, man, we're this. Then you go like this competition, then now you gotta fit in because you gotta appeal to everyone. The community wanted you. And now you got to give back to what the community wants. And that's that lane, you see. Every lane is different. So I had to be like pop icon, which I never was. I never saw myself. I was thrusted into it.
But do you like it though? Like, do you regret doing it?
I don't, man.
Yes.
I don't regret it. Yeah, I don't regret it. But it's important that I think about it so that I don't stay in that place because being thrusted into that, it's not my choice, because I just went because my ex-girlfriend said and my friend said, it's going, Tyler, you can sing. I was a backup singer in my band and then it happened. But staying there is my choice. And I didn't want to stay. I wanted to change the narrative and I want to do film score and I want to do what I wanted to do. And I wanted to I wanted to weave in what it means to be a Singaporean into my tracks. So I never resort to anything that is very popular. For an example, in India, let's say the lyricism, like if you throw these lyrics, it'll be very popular. I never use it in my song because my reasoning is I'm Singaporean. There should be something about me that I should be bringing to the scene, not doing what everyone is doing. That's okay for the beginning. All of us are trying to be like someone, but later, we have to discover ourselves because there's no one else, right? We got to be us. And Akim, do you think we're pushing the envelope in that area? And I don't mean you, rather when you observe the industry, do you think there is a certain collective consciousness about what it means to be a Singaporean when people are doing, with all the limitations, because we still have to make it work, make it a hit, and all that kind of stuff?
For me, I've never... It didn't cross my mind to find a formula to be myself. Or when I make music, it's always about like... I remember like in the hip hop scene, in the rap scene, like everybody wants to be the next Lil Wayne. Everybody wants to be the next Jay-Z. So when this dude drops a song, he would actually use Jay-Z, Juggins, and all Jay-Z's ammunition in his lyrics. Or Lil Wayne, it's obvious like this guy's trying to be this guy, this guy's trying to be Kendrick and all. So from my side, I'm always like, man, I don't know anything about Maybach or like Royce. I know Civic Center though. I know my friend Fox though, when we worked and all. Like, so my references are always about the things I know. So I think all of those stuff are unconscious. But if we keep doing the emulating, like, yo, we gotta do this K-pop thing because it's dope. We gotta do this American thing, or this band just came out. This is the sound, bro. I told you this is the sound. Like, then we kind of like lost it already. Because we, like Fox says, like, we don't have a renaissance we probably are going to be part of history where we create the Singapore sound, but I think we need to realize and focus on ourselves when we write the stuff. If Hougang, let's go. More Hougang songs.
No, that's why when I heard Woodlands, it's like, shit, I could have never done it with Hougang. I would have loved to, but I didn't do it. He did it.
Yeah, but dude, all I did in the song is just point out the streets, point out my favorite drink, point out my that's all I did, you know, and it became a thing, you know. Even the Malaysians are singing it and I'm like, huh? So, bro, we Woodlands also was like, no, you're not. You know, so I think if you really actually deep down just focus on yourself, you know, and we have a certain thing. We be very competitive in Singapore. It should be added to the 5 C's, the 6 C's. More C's need to come in. And you're talking about the mentality thing. We are like that. We are competitive. Because definitely it's just not passion a day. It's still parents and friends like, hey, bro, you're successful not now. We're not going to address this thing.
No,
like,
even if you are, they say, still can got enough money to eat or not?
Then when you actually do it right, really meh? Can meh? You know, like, come and do dirty things. You know? So like most of the things I do, and I've never wanted to be an artist. I've always wanted to be a producer. Write songs for people. But I do the thing I do as an like artist, right? Is because people keep saying like, cannot, you can never make it, you know, as a low income guy at that point of time, like they say like, we got no money, bro, to do this music thing. I'm like, you wait. So I just did it, came home, can. Huh? How do you do it? Just dirty boy. So every time I do a certain thing, it's just to show my fellow, you know, friends or the ones that are close I care about. Like, you can just do it, you know.
I totally relate to that. Yeah.
Sound wise also is just that somebody. To be honest, I think just one person just write a great song. Somebody come up with that song, that phenomenal worldwide hit, our Gangnam Style, our Oppa Gangnam Style. Everyone else is going to help us. Oh, this song Singapore song. Everyone's going to do it for us. We don't have to really stress. Just focus on writing the best song, you know, and have fun lah.
Yeah.
But that took Korea some time to get on the map because there was Japan first, right?
Yep.
But I think there was a certain collective consciousness in Korea, and of course the government came in to support. Many agencies come together, and as Akim mentioned, you know, and you don't know that the Renaissance is happening when there is a Renaissance happening. During the Renaissance, nobody came out, oh, it's the Renaissance. And nobody said, At the end of it, they're like, damn, we had a Renaissance.
Dude, I hear it a lot now. Like, I hear this a lot in other interviews and podcasts. They always tell me like, oh, do you think the government need to help us? My answer will always be like, why are you waiting for who? What? For what? Why are we so pampered, you know, as musicians? Like, everybody has a story. So why not we all convince the government through like, just offer them something they cannot refuse. So if you have a phenomenal song, they will like, it's not our hero. That's what happened to most of us who had to leave the country, come back home, and like, no, it's not Singaporean. That's why I learned I actually have a Singaporean sound. Because when I was just doing it on a come up, nobody cared. So I was in like all these platforms like, yeah. And then I left. And then it took one footage of foreigners, you know, another person's land to just sing your song and celebrate you, right? You come back home, hero. And then they're like, Singaporean, we'll give you this platform and whatnot. So we need to focus on that one product. Yeah.
And everybody, if you kind of anchor in, be introspective and start creating what is authentic to you, I'm pretty sure, you know, it'll not just happen once. I believe I think it'll happen again and again and again in different lanes.
Because we're competitive lah. We are as much as you all don't admit, right? We're very competitive towards each other. You know, as Singaporean, like, oh, you're a better artist than me. Hey,
oh, you got better streams than me.
Dude, we are like that. I mean, most of us lah. Like, I love when one of us win. Like, one of us make it, all of us make it.
Yeah, I agree with that. And you spoke about the 5 C's. Whether you agree about the 5 C's or not, I think I'll add the 6th C, which is create. I think we need to talk more about create. Yeah, because that makes us a better nation, because your military and your economy is not going to be remembered decades from now, but what's the art that your country created, you know? What are those monumental things that your culture and your civilization came up with? That will be remembered in time to come. So the mark of a society, I always believe, is the artists that inhabit that society. So it's so important for us to have that 6th C, which is create. But there's also the other 3 C, which I always think about when I talk about the Singapore sound, which is very, very dangerous, you know, because Singlish is great and all these things are great, but it can go into that 3 C zone. And what is that? cringe, corny, and cheesy. and
But I think
Those are
like
bars, bro.
no, but I think like the SARS rap still hit.
yeah.
Like that's
SARS is a
like if
virus.
we had the platform like I feel like that is the same level as Will Smith getting jiggy with it.
Yeah.
Like especially that
Yeah,
melody
yeah.
like, can you start it from the bottom? I'm like, what you call that?
no, but that's the thing, right? I mean, you got that range, right? Because you got Will Smith putting out a track like that.
Fair.
But you will also have Kendrick Lamar, you'll have RZA, you got everything, you got the whole range. So it's not just this that represents the American sound or hip hop and things like that. But of course, I worry that if this is the success again and again and again, and agencies pander to that because they're like, oh, give us more of this, give us more of this, then the serious ones get pushed back, and and we need humor for sure. But what about some humor with gravitas as well, like what he does? There is humor. I hear it. He doesn't take himself seriously, but takes what he does seriously. But at the same time, there's something serious about it. Like that could get a nomination and a huge award, and we could all be proud of it. And I think that is also important. If there is the spectrum should be as full as possible. That's my wish. We can have that too. That could be whatever that we everyone knows us for. It could be corny and all that, but it's fun at the end of the day. We need that to lighten up our life, but we need some artistic excellence too. That marks us as well. Because I don't want someone coming up to me and saying that, oh, do you do this English rap? I'm like, no, I don't. And I'm afraid that I will just be known for that. Just like how Singapore is it part of China? We don't want that. So we constantly want to battle those things, and that's why we artists are bringing in the diversity, which is the fabric of our society. And Fox, like, of course you are nowhere near that 3C, that dangerous 3C, because there's something that you're doing which is pushing the artistic limits. And you work with ACM, you work with the gallery and things like that. So you're on a very different spectrum compared to, say, the three of us. Tell us more about your process, and I want you to give me a commentary on what you could find cringy, cheesy, or corny, and why do you not even go near those places?
I'll add the fourth C in this line of a new 3Cs.
Yeah, man.
CCA.
What?
I find that most people who create in the boundary of a CCA, which includes a few things. Number one, hierarchy. As all CCAs go. Number two, fun. We love being here.
You mean CCA like co-curricular?
Co-curricular activities.
Been long since I was at school.
Or ECA, right? As I used to call it.
It's ECA now, right?
Now it's
ECA.
Yeah, you're showing our age.
Now it's CCA.
My time it was ECA.
You're showing our age already.
If you know ECA, you're old enough.
Stop.
So the thing is, I find that a majority of people who create, so it's not about whether I like what they create or I don't like what they create. I just find a majority of people who create like as if they're in a CCA. So there's hierarchy, there is fun, there is also community. And I think the most important thing, because it's a CCA and it's not real like NCC Land versus Army, is that there's no repercussions. You could basically do something wrong and even get kicked out and be like, oh, okay, well, there's the rest of the 3 million people out there that I can participate and do things with. And with that being said, I don't necessarily remember the entirety of the question, but I know that what I'm receiving from you and what I'm trying to project out is that I don't create like that, not because I choose to not create like that. I don't create like that because we've already spent our tertiary education doing things that we are following and that we, in some aspects, respect where we've come from. And I do feel that for as long as people do not recognize that in a CCA, I also feel like it can be very tough to present an idea that can seem very simple to me, and in fact, very almost breaking the fourth wall for a lot of individuals. And I think whether, because even someone like myself, I feel I've done almost everything except anything that is outside of English, as well as in English music or anything that it doesn't revolve around the English vocabulary, as well as things that are outside the domain of popular culture. And I can definitely say that, at least at this point, it does not matter how alternative or how unique one is. I feel that if you do not celebrate your individuality as a person, then a lot of times you are just going through the motion of, if there could be another C, Could there be another C? No, none of it makes sense in C. But it'll be like the life of,
He's trying to make it 5.
well, okay, let me see. My real name is Chris. So maybe the fifth thing is Chris. Is all like you'll never be able to go past the life of like I had fun in my 20s and I got married and then I this and that, and then that sort of cycle I feel is habitual, because the most important part about the CCA is the no repercussion, just like how you say like the freedom. And I feel that with such nuances in our very specific life, I think it doesn't lead, or rather it always leads into this main point now, which is that I think I was having fun. Not me, I'm speaking for everyone, but I was having fun, and I do not think so deeply about things that need to be thought about. And there will always be this line of like perhaps questioning again, like why you do what you do. And I just feel that like, again, I don't necessarily remember the question, but the energy that I receive is to try to remember that there's a reason why I am not the 3 Cs, but it's also trying to acknowledge that we do not need to participate in CCAs too, because you could do secondary school, never did CCA, but after school you go hang out with friends, you go to the mall or whatever. There's so many nuances to life, and I feel like creativity has that sort of nuance. It is not about it whether you're sheltered or not sheltered. It's perhaps sometimes being able to canal someone who tells you something like, hey, like that. Did you know these things exist? Perhaps like whether you're older or younger, are you able to receive such information that can break stereotypes? And that's how I feel.
And breaking stereotypes is not something which is very straightforward to do, especially when we are in a society where we are rewarded for following the rules. And we artists in Singapore, we've found a very interesting way to follow and also not follow. Yeah, we found a way to bend. Not break, but bend. Yeah. And I think that makes us more creative, I think, as artists. I'm pretty sure, like Jason, in order to put your name on the map and get all these, great artists that you have produced, Jasmine, Ben, and Gentle Bones, and, you had to bend the rules, and secretly break some and not tell. but that's the process. And what would make us break it even more? What would make us have more breakthroughs on this particular front, which is pop may not be the most convenient and fertile ground to do experimentations that Fox does. Because for pop, primarily it's the hit. If you don't hit, you're out. Because I'm from a very competitive industry too, which is India. It's just all about your last hit. Nobody gives a shit what you did like 5 years ago and how good you are and all that kind of stuff. Can you write a hit? Can you give this film a hit? But sometimes there are rewards when you bring something new to the table, for sure, right? And that exists in pop, in hip hop, in alternative, being genre fluid as well. And even for me, that exists. There are producers who have used that and they have benefited, like Timbaland and Black Eyed Peas. They have done that and they continue to do that too. There are songs which release where there's like an Indian refrain, Kashmir, uses it, and it becomes it blows up. Oh, what's that? And people say, oh, that's so exotic, But but when you say something is exotic, that means you don't know it enough. But we know it. I know how an erhu sounds. It sounds like human voice. It's a great instrument. It's no longer a Chinese instrument for me. It's an instrument. That's it. Because I've broken down the unfamiliarity. I've gained a certain acquaintance with it already through my interaction over the years, and that's because I'm born in Singapore. So whether you're talking about Timbaland, Black Eyed Peas, like mainstream producers, or talking about Nitin Sawhney and Talvin Singh, who do like some crazy stuff with everything, like Arabic music and Indian music and everything in between, classical music. They've pushed in various areas. While we Singaporeans, Singapore producers and artists, we have these resources, but also is there a mentality issue where, okay, bend it but don't break it, do it but not too much, do all these things for yourself but make sure you give a hit, put food on the table, don't go broke. Do we have all these things blocking us from taking those huge leap of faith? What do you think?
Okay, I think first of all, yes, there is a block, and I think my life would be dedicated to just trying to break everybody out the box a bit more. One of the coolest things I feel is always that Chris and I have very different mentalities when it comes to music, yet we can get along. It's also the beauty of Singapore, because if we were in America, he would be shooting me or I'll be killing him. But like the reason why is Fox is very creative, right? But I am more of like, okay, let's follow, right? Conform. Because for what I play with is this is conformity. Now, how do I bend that and warp it, right? And build upon it. So because what I want to do is sort of like, if you remember ST engineering, so I use a lot of like inspiration from outside of music for how I do music. So I will look at like how tech companies run or how like engineering companies run. And what I saw with how we built Singapore up is we took everything everywhere. And then we didn't tell them, we opened it up, we changed a bit, ours. This is ours now, right? So like, that's what I'm trying to do with music, because that's what got us so accelerated from like kampong to here in 65 years, which is crazy. It's really insane, right? Everybody remember Changi Airport last time? That was like 20 years ago only. Like it's such a crazy growth. And what I want to do is accelerate the Singapore music scene in that way. But the only way to do so is to take in, tweak, put it back out. So like, for example, with music, what I try to do with like TikTok was a big thing. So TikTok was blowing up. So what I did was, okay, figure out there is a way to blow people up on TikTok. Everyone was telling me, no, TikTok's the 3 C's, right? Cringe, corny, like everything is not going to work. But then I went into it, I figured it out with my artist, Josh Makazo. We were like, okay, let's try posting every day. Take, this did well, why? Look at the timing, look at the stats, do again, do similar content, redo. 1 month later, went super viral, right? He had a song called Half My Heart and it reached America. And then he was on the newspaper, you know, TikTok artist that blows up, everything, that everybody's doing TikTok. Which, I mean, I'm pretty sure everyone here hates. but like for me, it was like, okay, but then what do we have now? We have Shaza blowing up, right? Yeah. On Instagram, right? And for me, what that shows is that, okay, we're getting all these Americans and we're getting all this international love, right? Without leaving this country. And who do you think cares about this? Straits Times, bless Adino's heart, but like I've been reaching out to them since the start of last year to get Josh something. Did not care. I was ignored, right? I tried to get him on Baybeats. Nobody cared, right? Moment he blows up, hey man, would you love to come on the podcast?
That's how it works, huh?
Yeah, that's how it works. But the thing is when he blew up, you thought, like, a lot of people thought like, oh, he blew up because like he probably did something cringy, corny, or Singlish. But no, what we did was we figured out how to use the likeness of another artist, right, to trigger his explosion, which is a common strat used in America, right, where you sound like another artist, you use it explodes because they thought it's a leak, right? In this, our case was DPR Ian, right? They thought, oh my God, it's his song. Wait, no, it's Josh Makazo. And then they come in there. And what that did was that it funneled a small amount of fan base. And then from that point forward, we started using only his likeness to promote, right? And that's what I feel like we need to do is that we take everything, right? We go figure it out. We use the like, again, like a bigger artist, but for our case, it's like a bigger, more established culture, which is like America or K-pop. We tweak it and we release it. Because what we do is then we will take their audience, we steal a bit of it one at a time. Yeah. Like what I'm trying to do is steal a little bit one at a time. And then once we are done, we put it all out. And eventually they'll be like, yo, what's this? This is like not Korean. This is not American. And we can look at this to K-pop. Because when Wonder Girls came out, it was very Pussycat Dolls. Yeah, it was very American. I remember in 2007, 2009, right? I was like, oh, this is just American girl group in Korean. But now, if you hear some of the stuff they're putting out, there's this group called NMIX. I'm like, what is this? I have no idea. Genre bending, like crazy fusion, right? You have like Blackpink using like, what's that sound? Like, it sounds exotic. I don't even know what it is. The Blackpink with the tung, 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 tung. It sounds like a guzheng or warp thing. I don't know what that is. But they've made it so that when you hear it now, it's like, that's Korean. It took 10 years. Yeah. But they started also stealing from America, right? And then they warped it to their own. So what I'm trying to do is figure out. But what I like about like everyone on this table is that my way might not be the right way, right? So Chris also has his own way of going. And Akim also is going on his own trajectory. All of us actually in our own paths will build something, right? And whether or not it all aligns in the end, I believe so, right? But we would not be our generation. It's like Class X, the documentary we did, right? When we look back at the 1990s to the 2000s, right? You see like, Force Vomit.
Yeah.
What's the name of the other bands? I'm damn scared.
What do you call this? Stomping Ground.
Yeah, Stomping Ground. Like back then, when they were doing it, they were just playing locally. They didn't know that they were creating. And without them, we wouldn't have this like like floor for us to stand on.
Yeah.
So I feel like whatever we do and whatever I do until I cannot do it anymore will create the new ceiling, which then the next generation step on. It will, maybe when we see the Singapore sound, like Chris says, like Hakim says, like it wouldn't be our generation, which is fine. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't do it. Yeah.
And that's the very reason why I wanted to start this podcast as a music artist myself. Because I always believe that you sometimes don't need to do, you just need to be aware for a start. That's how meditation works. You can't do meditation, you just sit and suddenly you're aware of your breathing and your heartbeat, and everything changes about how you perceive your own body, you see. And that's why we're starting these conversations, to start creating that awareness and seeing whether can we achieve a collective consciousness, because there is something all four of us can learn from each other. And that's the power that we have, because we're so small, you can't divide, us in a way where, these are all hip-hop artists, these are all, it doesn't work like that, because we're going to run into each other every now and then, So might as well learn from each other something, and that we can incorporate into our artistry and music. And even like K-pop, I think a lot of the producers were from Sweden, and they learned from it. And now they've got their own thing going on. And I do believe that it's possible for us to do that too. Maybe not through engineering, but through nurturing. Because nature wasn't on our side when it came to this. With all the things that we have from the very beginning, we were forced to survive. And art had no place in that conversation. But now, we as artists, we can push it. But since nature's not on our side, we have to resort to nurture. And nurturing, it takes time. It's going to take time. You did mention in an interview, I think, an ability with other producers like Flight School and Evan. Singapore is definitely at a level where I can proudly say that we do not lose out regionally in Southeast Asia in music production. I believe that with that kind of collective consciousness and awareness, Southeast Asia will be replaced by Asia and then the world in time to come. I'm a man of faith, so I believe this thing could happen, yeah. The industry that I'm primarily producing for right now, which is the Indian film industry, is such where there'll be a song that will start and maybe it might have a ska vibe kind of thing, but then it'll go into a jazz interlude and then there'll be a Carnatic, semi-Carnatic vocal coming in, and then it come back to the ska vibe. What's happening? That kind of thing. But the one who made this happen was A.R. Rahman. He really went crazy with it. Grammy and Oscar award-winning composer and producer. There was no limitations for him when it comes to producing music. Like he will do everything. Like he will take in the pare, which is a percussive instrument from South India, and he'll fuse it with rap. And he did all this stuff like way before. Hakim, you said in an interview, personally, I feel like hip hop is the only genre you can blend other genres into. You can sample jazz, rock, almost anything. Of course, hip hop is that genre where you can do it, and there's also Indian film music, not to forget. Yeah, you grew up with a bit of Bollywood and stuff, I'm sure. But at that era, Bollywood didn't start that yet. After A.R. Rahman came in, it kind of broke open, for them as well. So there are a few places in the world where all musical cultures can meet and they can exist. While Singapore is we are multicultural, multiracial, in the music department, we are not really the ones who are making these breakthroughs in fusion and whirl and bringing things together. So based on your statement, what are the techniques that you think producers can employ when it comes to hip hop?
I think that's an old statement, by the way. Now, even especially the K-pop world or any genre, you can no longer define a genre anymore now.
Yeah, but I think if you want to paraphrase this to current times, hip-hop was one of the first few to do that. I mean, think about this. Right? This is crazy, right? Look at this.
Yes, sir.
This is the Tao of Wu. And we're talking about a hip-hop artist, a Black American, who's talking about the Shaolin Temple philosophy, Buddhism, Chan Buddhism. He's talking about Bodhidharma, and he's talking about, Kung Fu and meditation, Eastern meditation. He's talking, and
these guys from State Island.
Yeah, from the State
Island.
Yeah, and there is also realizing Allah in the mix. There's all these things going on, you see, and they were not really in a right position to do something like that, but they did it, because they were. I don't know if they were seeking or it just came to them. I guess, when the student is ready, the teacher appears, and that's what happened in this particular case, right? Are we ready as Singaporeans to receive such, are we open for such experiences which could lead to a certain enlightenment and, as I mentioned earlier, collective consciousness to further push the boundary in these areas?
Oh, of course. For me, the benchmark is once everybody gets rap, let's go. So I think we're already at that mark where this auntie actually listens to a little bit of Blackpink rap and she knows that. I'm like, okay, I think we're more than ready now. Like, let's go and sell it, Yeah.
And platform is so important, right? I write a song in Singapore, I put it on a series, it garners about 3,000 views on YouTube. I take the same song, I expand it, I put it in a film, it crosses 100 million on YouTube. What is this, man? Doesn't even make sense. It doesn't add up, the math doesn't add up. So we need more platforms for sure. And platforms have also changed because the days of a monopoly media is not there anymore. If a sitcom is playing, all of us are in front of the TV, back in the day, right? But now that's not the case because one person is getting their entertainment from TikTok, another person from YouTube, another person from Netflix, another person watching TV. We have some platforms like MediaCorp has launched Indigo to support like indie and underground artists, and of course MediaCorp tries their best to weave in artists for their whenever they have concerts and things like that. And we have other platforms which are there. Also, Jason, I think because we didn't have mentors, right? Did you have a mentor? Do you have a mentor?
No.
We're such a generation. Millennials,
Yeah.
Well, I'm not here, not there. Yeah.
No, I got a lot of peers who have mentors till today.
Is it?
Yeah.
And they like the Ash and Pikachu thing. Like they still stuck to their mentors. Like, dude, sometimes like that's me being jealous sometimes at that age, right?
Yeah.
No.
I was like, what's so cool? You got a big brother who like holds your hands,
I agree
put
that
you in a Pokeball, then I'm here like, hey, what are you doing with your life? I don't have a figure, but then again, it creates a new. It spawns a different type of.
But I think the fact that we didn't have a mentor makes us also think that I don't want someone to go through that. I want to do something.
Yes.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%. The whole reason why I have the 3 sons I look after is really just that I don't want anyone to go through what I've been through, right? Like to figure this out, like it's been painful, it's been slow, right? And obviously I'm still trying to figure it out like everybody else. Mentorship also is not easy.
For sure.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure every one of us have our own like version of like a son or like in the hip hop turn of a son. Yeah, but like I think at the same time it's strangely rewarding.
And hopefully that paves the way for people to be more interested in the Singapore music scene. And we don't stop at just food and financial hub and things like that. We're also known for our music industry. So that's a very practical way of approaching this whole problem. I love that. Fox.
So whether it's via a patron of the arts, whether it's via, a loan and everything in between, there's this thing that I want to do this year, and it can don't happen this year too, but it's a concept called It's Here. And you can call it an installation, an event, or whatever, but I call it a happening. And the idea of It's Here is that I want to create experiences that revolves around 2 entities. The sounds that we hear every day in Singapore, meaning the machine sounds, anything that comes from, a vehicle or just anything that's there. It can be clippers too, barber clippers. And I want to put them in a space while I come in and improvise with the quote-unquote instruments based off the sort of environment that I'm creating. So let's say in terms of money or in terms of accessibility, if it's like the sky's the limit, right? The biggest one I have, because I've got a lot of different separate ideas, but the biggest one involves, let's say like the closest we have, it's like it's not Tanjong Pagar warehouse. What is that place? The fire station, the power, like they have shows there. Have you seen that? There's like
the power station.
Power station.
St. James Power Station.
Something like that. Just imagine this kind of power station, but because Singapore have maybe 2 times as big. And the idea was I wanted to fill the entire space with at least 50 giant construction vehicles. The kinds when they are on like whatever you call this idle mode and it just are just doing that. I want to fill the entire space with such reverb, anyways, right? With these vehicles, and all I'm doing in the center is I'll have either an upright or a grand piano, and I'll come in and maybe I'll have a walkie-talkie. I was okay, ready on, and everyone on, and you hear this flash of sound that might go on for could be an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, maybe until the fuel disappears. But I'll be there interacting with the sound, utilizing my piano to improvise and like create this sort of experience that will never happen again, because the idea of It's Here is that it's only happening here. And you can be like as easy as doom scrolling. You could have dressed up like, whatever, how you look, and you come in like, huh? And then you leave because it's supposed to be free. It's supposed to be an experience. And mind you, that's the biggest I have so far. But as I trail down the ladder, whether it's Blue SG cars with their sounds that they create to warn people that I'm here, getting them to cycle in a series of 6, and I'm in the middle in the sand, taking instruments and playing with them, all the way to the most common one that I want to do, which I can do without money, which is going to a jamming studio, calling a barber, put microphones on the barber, just have your conversation, bro, cut hair for 1 hour, and I'll have my upright.
Hakim did that at one of the interviews with Bandwagon. I saw that.
No, I need a haircut, bro. It wasn't an aesthetic. I was like,
I have no time.
so I was like, yo, I need a haircut now. They're here today. Let me do the interview with Ryan. It's nothing special, nothing fancy. Yeah.
That's cool, man. I really love that idea, and that's a very Fox approach to the whole thing. Yeah, I love that. And I'm gonna record that thing, because if you record, you should give it to us. We can sample it.
if anything, just like it's here, as well as like music projects that I want to do. Now, just to clear it off and leave questions open for people, there's a part of my life that I want to go into where I stop recording things. I want you to come and show up.
Yeah. I get that.
Because I've created music so long, right, that I just feel that I'd rather you see something that I'm going to be seeing for the first time. And then that's a mutual respect. And it's maybe something that happens here only.
And you'll never see it again.
Yeah.
I love that idea. All right, guys, thank you very much for sharing all your very unique perspective and very valuable perspective, all from very different lanes, and that's what makes us, Singaporeans. We're all different, but we come united. Push comes to shove, we'll be there for each other, and I love that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
It's fun.
There's no one bad dog.